Hey everyone! Today I've got your Star Wars The Last Jedi movie review. The Force hangs in the balance when good versus evil collide. Can you say the same about this film? As far as the story goes, Rian Johnson directs this 8th installment in the Star Wars saga that has Rey with Luke Skywalker on this island where she searches for answers about who she is, and Luke is, she wants to be trained by Luke to learn the ways of the Force. I was really excited to see this movie and I was really looking forward to it. I have been a fan of Star Wars and I've at least enjoyed the previous films, and especially liking more of The Force Awakens since that came out 2 years ago, and seeing this new sort of trilogy form. And I was worried that this movie was going to be another rehash of Empire Strikes Back, but when it came down to this movie, I not only saw that, but I also saw nods to The Return of the Jedi, and let's just say not a lot of people were that excited when it kind of felt like The Force Awakens was like A New Hope, and to say that this sequel was going to be yet another type of movie like the original trilogy, it kind of felt very unoriginal with that, even though there were some original moments in this film, which I'll talk about later. It seemed like while I was entertained with most of what I was seeing, I felt like at the end of the movie I was left scratching my head and having more questions than receiving answers for this middle film, and at times it felt very empty, even if it was emotional at times. Now, as far as the casting goes, you've got Daisy Ridley, who returns as Rey, and I actually liked her character development more in this movie, and I think it was partially due to the fact that her character was more badass at times, and even though there were some moments where it felt like we hadn't seen anything new with her character, I think it more came down to her interactions with the other characters that sort of made her character stand out a lot. And there were some really cool scenes that she had that I can't really spoil until my spoiler review, but I just thought like those are really cool with the way that she handled them. Now, we finally get to see Mark Hamill in full as Luke Skywalker, as compared to how we sort of saw him at the end of The Force Awakens. At times, I felt like we were being cheated with what we were seeing as far as his character goes, and maybe he wasn't as developed in this episode as compared to what we had seen since Episode 6, Return of the Jedi, because I don't know, his acting just seemed a little off, or it wasn't handled the way that I had expected him to be, and I don't know, it just felt very different, and sometimes different can be a good thing, but in this case, it just felt very inconsistent with what we had previously known about Luke Skywalker, and so it just seemed kind of weird at times. Now, I would also say that Carrie Fisher, with her final performance as Princess Leia, or should I say General Leia, it's very unfortunate that that Carrie Fisher had passed away, and I was very sad when that had happened, and then to see the way that her character was in this movie, at times it did feel bittersweet, but then there were only two scenes that I really felt emotionally invested in, and everything else, I don't know, I wouldn't want to spoil it, but there was this one moment in the movie that I felt like kind of ruined the essence of her character, and I feel like it could have been executed differently. I said, oh wait, this is the moment where Luke was sort of talking about this at the end of, or he was talking about this at some point in Return of the Jedi, and I'm thinking, okay, but then why didn't it, I don't know, it just didn't go the way I had expected, so it was kind of shocking to see the way her character was. Adam Driver, I know a lot of you probably weren't as impressed with him as Kylo Ren, aka Ben Solo. He was being trained by Luke, but he was kind of, then he turned into Kylo Ren, and I don't know, like, I liked his character better this time around, and I felt like he had a lot of potential with what we could have seen and what we might see in episode 9, so there is a lot that I am looking forward to seeing, and what I did see I thought was all pretty cool, and definitely a few scenes that were questionable, but I still liked him in the end. John Boyega and Oscar Isaac's characters, Finn and Poe Dameron, I felt were better used this time around, and I liked their character development in this film, so I was really impressed by that, and I would have loved to see much more of them, so hopefully they get even more screen time in episode 9. Then you've got the introduction, well, not really an introduction, but you get to see more of what Andy Serkis could bring to the table as Supreme Leader Snoke, who we didn't get to see besides in any form besides a hologram. I thought like he looked really cool in this movie, and you know, typical Andy Serkis fashion, just sounded really awesome, and he did creep me out at times, but I wasn't sure if it was misleading to assume that he would be more powerful than the Emperor or Emperor Palpatine, but I don't know, I just felt like we just didn't see the full extent of what his powers were in this movie, so I felt like at the end of the day his character ended up being underwhelming. Another character I was very disappointed in was Gwendolyn Christie's return as Captain Phasma, who I feel like once again was wasted in this movie, even though she had that really cool scene with Finn. And that was pretty much it, and it really just didn't impress me. And Laura Dern was like the love child of Mon Mothma, meets Effie Trinket from Hunger Games, and at times you do understand her character's motivations, but I felt like she was very boring to watch, and it's very unfortunate because I love her as an actress. And even this other new character, Rose, I just felt like she was kind of annoying. I don't even know why, for the most part, she was put into this movie, or like if she was planning on being with anyone in this movie, but I feel like she didn't add much depth to the role, and it really didn't make me care so much about her character. Things that I liked about this movie was that, you know, I loved the visuals. I was sitting literally in the front row watching this in Dolby Surround Sound, and it just all looked so awesome, and I loved everything I was seeing visuals wise, from the lightsaber battles to like these wide panning shots. It just all looked really cool, and the cinematography was once again on point. And I would also love to hate the porgs, those little creatures that, you know, make those like really annoying sounds like and I just think that they were solely for marketing purposes. And I did also like the crystal foxes, but I mean, these ones, you know, Chewbacca could have eaten one if he wanted to, seriously. But unfortunately, the things that I didn't really like about this movie was that there was too much comedy going on in this movie, and even this one scene in the opening, it just felt so unnatural to what I had previously seen in any of the other Star Wars movies, and it kind of felt unnecessary at times, or at least placed in scenes that made it really unnecessary. And this movie was really long, and it could have been a tad shorter with some of the things that they had put in this movie, as far as like filler scenes go, or things to just pass the time that didn't even make any sense at all, or just dragged on, and it didn't really go anywhere. And I think that was also partially due to the editing, because it just felt like it was going all over the place, and it kind of made the movie boring to watch at times. I would hate to say this, but even though this is the middle movie of this new trilogy, the ending felt very anticlimactic, and even though at times it was shocking to see, you know, it took me a second to have it register what was really going on, and it just wasn't what I had expected it to be. So it was kind of a surprise. So that's all I'm going to say about that. So overall, while I enjoyed certain aspects of the film, I came out of the theater unfortunately disappointed, and there was just so much going on, and I know that's another reason for me to see this movie again so that I could do my spoiler review for this film. So who knows, I might find new things that I didn't get to see before, or I don't recall seeing before, and I might enjoy it more than I did the first time I saw it, but that's all up in the air for now. So let me know in the comments what you guys thought of Star Wars The Last Jedi. As always, you guys can subscribe to my channel. I've got more movie reviews, movie updates coming every week for a Trail Thursday video. You guys can also like me on Facebook and follow me on Twitter, and may the Force be with you.